everybody, Chandler here for Talkie Dreams. I'm going to do my first film review for you guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a short review for the film, and then I'm going to do an extended review right after this that will be uploaded at a later time, maybe later this week, maybe tomorrow, I don't know, maybe in the next few hours, but I'm going to do an extended one right after this, so I'll be wearing the same shirt and all that sort of stuff. I'll probably just film it in one go, but right now I'm going to give you the short review, so if people just want to get in, get a quick fix, and get their review in. And the extended one is like all the little details that I noticed from the film. So what I'm going to review, as you have already seen from the title, is Mockingjay Part 2, the last Hunger Games film. Now this is the fourth film in a 3-book series. They have done this with very many of these young adult series. It's just a trend that's going on these days, but I think it may have suffered the same way a lot of them have suffered, but we'll get into that in just a moment. This will be a spoiler-free review. Now, the extended one may have a little bit more of a spoiler edge to it, especially when it comes to details on, not necessarily on a story level, but on a technical level, and of course when it comes to the previous stories. But what did I think of Mockingjay Part 2? I felt that Mockingjay Part 2 is a decent film. It's not bad by any means. It's not poorly made. The acting is actually pretty decent. The camera work is really nice. It still has the same aesthetic that they've kept on from the previous 3 films, which is fine. I think they've done a really good job. When I first saw The Hunger Games, I was not interested in this franchise at all, and it really surprised me. The brutality is still there. If you're really into that, that's still there. The romance is still there. All of the things that have been there are still there. However, I do feel that this suffered a little bit from being split into 2 stories. Now, I already felt that Deathly Hallows had the same problem, even though that was a much bigger and immersive book. I mean, that book was trying to cover a whole 7-story scenario going on. In this case, it's just 3 stories, and they're trying to pile on a lot with these 2 films. So, overall, I found the film a bit over-plotting, took a bit too long in some places. But in my feeling, the film really went like this. It went from really, really good to insufferable, just like that. There were moments that were really just appalling for me. I really hated the soundtrack. Some of the drama was just a bit too much. I had to keep reminding myself, this is a young adult fiction, this is young adult fiction. But this isn't just young adult fiction when it comes to the films. I mean, these films are being made for a wider audience, not just the teenage audience. Now, enough people loved it, and if you're a big fan of The Hunger Games, I think this film's going to be just fine for you. But for me, as just an idle viewer who's never read the books, hasn't really invested a lot into this franchise, it just wasn't doing it for me. There was just too much of particular things. I will say I felt Jennifer Lawrence was really nice. It was kind of weird for me, though, how I felt that in Mockingjay Part 1, she was kind of not really invested much into it. In Mockingjay Part 2, she was, even though they filmed the 2 films in just one go as one story. So I don't know how that happened. Maybe that's just my perception of how things were going on. Maybe it's just Katniss is just too much of a stoic character for my tastes. I don't know. But there were issues that I had with this film. It's not the end-all, be-all. It has the finale problems. Every single twist that took place in this film I could predict, and that's where I had to remind myself that it was a young adult film. But the score, I felt, had absolutely no reason to be as dramatic as it was, and there's a lot of ex machina going on in this film. Sure, if you read the books, then you already knew what was going to happen, and you knew some miraculous shit happens, but I really don't like the whole, this person is special and nobody else is special kind of stuff, and they do that, but they've been doing that since the franchise started. There's some interesting political stuff going on, but I do feel that it would have been a bit more relevant if they had just stuck with keeping with the story in one film. So maybe, like, you know, when the last film came out, it would have actually hit home a little bit more than it does today. Different things are on our minds these days than what they're trying to convey in this particular film. And also, because they decided to split it into 2, they really stretched out particular scenes and rushed others that I felt that they could have actually put more time into. I really think that if you were to take the highlights of this film and the highlights from Part 1, you could have made a good 2.5, 3-hour movie. I don't mind long movies. Interstellar, I thought, was a fun movie. I love the Christopher Nolan films. I love Kubrick's films, and all of them are pretty long, so I don't see what the point is on making 2 really long films with missing bits and pieces. You still miss things. So I think you should pick and choose and make one long, nice, coherent film, and people would still enjoy it a lot more. I'm not saying that that's going to be the case for everything, but I mean, Twilight's done it now, Divergent's doing it, Harry Potter's done it, and Hunger Games did it. I just don't get why they have to be split into 2 films for the finales. The finales are usually just the size of any other book in the series, maybe just a little bit more thick. So that's my thought on it. If I had to give this a grade, the way the grade system is going to work is I'm going to grade films from 1 to 5 with increments of 0.5 in between. This film, I'm going to weigh it, and I'm going to say that I'm going to give it a 3. I'm going to give it a 3 just because I really felt that the acting and some of the action sequences were cool enough to give it that 3. But in general, there were CGI problems for me. There were pacing issues. The score was a bit off. So I was leaning towards 2.5, but I just felt like, you know what, no, it's still good enough. It's not a bad movie. It's still a pretty decent film, pretty well made. So I'm going to give it a 3, even though I wasn't completely impressed by it. But what did you think? Did you enjoy this? Are you a huge Hunger Games fan? Have I just stepped on your franchise? Let me know. Give me some hate. Give me some love. Did you agree with me? What were your problems with the film? Let's open up a little bit of a dialogue here. Just, put your information or whatever you want to say in the comments below. Let me know what you think of the film, what you thought of this review. And if you liked it, give me a like. And please subscribe and call your friends and get them to subscribe. Okay, guys, that was me. So that was my review for Mockingjay Part 2. Now, keep your eyes open for the extended review if you wanted to hear more about my thoughts and my rants and ramblings about this particular film. See you guys later, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.